Hello, my name is Tanisha Lankford, and today I will be discussing the risk breakdown structure, its usage, and benefits. Risks are evident in any project. Limiting negative and increasing positive impacts of risk related to project cost, schedule, and quality are all part of risk management, according to the Project Management Institute. In today's session, we will discuss risk definition and identification. What is the risk breakdown structure? The importance of the risk breakdown structure, types of risk breakdown structures, creating the risk breakdown structure, and use of the risk breakdown structure in risk management. Throughout this session, when you see the stick pin image, it is shown and represents a key point to remember or to make stick in your memory. Let's discuss risk definition and identification. So it's important to understand what is a risk. A risk is when an uncertain event or condition occurs and has an impact on the project. This impact can be positive, which is an opportunity, or negative, which is a threat. In determining risk, at the start of the project, a meeting is held with the project team and stakeholders and led by a facilitator, all as a part of identifying project risks. This is the start of gathering data to be entered in the risk breakdown structure. So let's apply this to our everyday lives. There are risks potentially as having a car accident, a loan denial, layoff from work, or your basement flooding from a storm. So what is the risk breakdown structure? According to PMI, the Project Management Institute, a risk breakdown structure is a hierarchical list of risks for the project. It is a written documentation of all risk in an organized manner. Risks are identified and placed on the risk register. From the risk register, they are documented in the risk breakdown structure. So you may ask, what is the difference between the risk register and the risk breakdown structure? The risk register will list out in detail the risks, the thresholds, and risk responses, while the risk breakdown structure provides risk categories and those risks. Let's make it stick. Again, the risk register lists individual risks by description, and the risk breakdown structure lists risks by hierarchical categories. So let's take an example in comparing the risk register and the risk breakdown structure using an example of purchasing a car. As you'll see, the top row, the risk register gives full detail with a risk description of, as a result of a credit score in the 500s, the loan application could be denied. It will list the category as financing and other detailed information. You'll see in the risk breakdown structure a simpler view with the category listing of finance, the type of risk being related to the application, and the risk being the loan denial. So you can see the difference in the high level in the risk register and the more simpler view in the risk breakdown structure. The importance of the risk breakdown structure. Unlike other risk documentation, the risk breakdown structure provides a simple view. It helps in managing risks. Risks are broken down by levels or categories to identify risk dependencies, and it provides an overall view of risk exposure to the project. Let's make it stick. Again, the risk breakdown structure is important in listing risks by levels to help recognize risk dependencies. So let's look at the types of risk breakdown structure. There are many different variations of risk breakdown structures. It is left up to the project manager to determine the best format. Now, the type used should be based on organizational needs and the project type, such as projects for software implementation and construction may require a more in-depth or more detailed risk breakdown structure template, more so than a general project. Now, you don't need to have any extravagant software. You can simply use Microsoft Word, Excel, or based on your technical aptitude, create it in a database. So let's look at two examples. Example 1 and 2. Level 0 is your risk project name, or you can simply just say project risk. Level 1 being the first row in the purple row in example 1, and you'll see the first row in level 1 for the example 2 will list your risk categories. And the bottom will list in detail more of the risk in example 1 and in example 2 in level 3. So example 1 is more of a stack list, and example 2 is more of a listing list. Example 3 here shows more of the template that will be used for software or construction projects. Like the other examples, it will continue to list the level 0 with the project name or simply list project risks. And you have your level 1 listing your categories. For the more software and construction projects, the categories are technical, external, organizational, and managerial, or simply project management. And then you have your level 2 listing out the actual risk. So let's make it stick. The risk breakdown structure is broken down by level 0 as the project name, level 1 as the risk category, and level 2 as the risk. Creating the risk breakdown structure. Now that we understand what the risk breakdown structure is, let's put our knowledge to work in creating one. Inputs in creating the risk breakdown structure are the risk register and the project management plan. And let me pause for a second here as we go into explaining how to create it. You may hear me use RBS as an acronym for risk breakdown structure going forward. So next, let's determine the type of RBS template that we will use. And again, this is based on the project type and size. There may be a preference already determined by your executive staff within your organization. If not, again, it's up to the project manager. And more complex projects will use more of the list view in example 2 versus more of the stack view in example 1. So let's look at an example of our car purchase. ID 1 for risk. Description: as a result of a credit score, the loan application could be denied. Level 0 again is your risk project name or your project name. So in this case, car purchase. Level 1 is your category, in this case, financing. Level 2 is a 1 to 2 word description of the risk. In this case, it relates to the application. Level 3 is the actual risk. The application could be denied, so this could be a risk of a loan denial. Let's look at level 2, going just through another example. The category is mechanical. The first 1 to 2 description of level of the risk is level 2 is functionality. So in this case, the car may need repairs. Level 3 is the actual risk and its reliability. So again, let's go over risk ID 2. As a result of buying a used car, there could be repairs needed within the first 3 months of ownership. The category listed is mechanical, so we list that as our level 1, which is the category. Level 2 is a 1 to 2 word description of the risk. So in this case, with it being repairs could be needed, it's related to functionality, or if you wanted to use performance. That's up to the project team and project manager. And the actual risk relates to reliability, because the car may not be reliable in needing repairs so soon, which is a risk. Again, let's go through a more detailed plan. So, category level 0 is the name of the project or project risk. Level 1 for the software or more detailed projects are your categories of technical, external, organizational, and managerial. Level 2 are your actual risks. Those are the levels at a minimum. You may need more detail where you can add in the option of level 3 and or level 4. So, let's say the case of this software project. Project risk or the name of the project at level 0. Level 1, your category being technical. Level 2, the risk, 1 to 2 word description, relates to requirements. Level 3 can drill down on what about requirements. So in this case, we'll say functional requirements. And if you want to drill down a little more, what about functional requirements is a risk, and you'll go to level 4 and you'll list the interface. Use of the risk breakdown structure in risk management. So the risk breakdown structure is used in risk management to allow for risk identification and providing a list of risks by organizational category. As you remember our last example, one of the categories was technical. Risk analysis and noticing dependencies between risks. So you may notice that the risk of the requirements is also related to a risk related to controlling the project, or a risk related to the interface because you don't have all of the requirements identified. Identification of high-risk sources or categories. So you may see that the category of technical has more risk. So that lets you know you need to be careful or more alert on setting thresholds and risk responses because it has a higher probability of occurring. And then recognizing repetitive risks. So if you see a certain risk going across all different categories, again, you're noticing a repetition and you're noticing a high alert for your risk responses and thresholds. So in concluding, the risk breakdown structure is part of risk management in being created from the risk register. It lists risks by hierarchical categories, it's entered in a template from Excel or Word, and it helps to identify risk dependencies. So thank you for your time, and the floor is now open for any questions.